Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with crank.com and with that metal station. And today I'm getting to have a chat with Dale Stewart, bassist for Seether. I did have a chat last year with Corey when they dropped their Fizz, Pack and Parabellum album, which was an absolute ripper. Now they're going to do the Vicennial 2 Decades of Seether. They just dropped the Wasteland EP not too long ago. They've been hitting the ground running at the moment, Seether. So thank you very much for joining me, Dale.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Nah, man, really cool. First off, I want to ask about the Fizz, Pack and Parabellum album. I did have a chat to Corey. What was it like making that album? Because that one was an absolute ripper, man. It kind of got you around to some more ears that people probably hadn't heard Seether of the early stuff, and then come across this album, and it just went barnstormer, man. I was really impressed with it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a fun one to make. Shaun produced that album, so it cut out that extra set of opinions. When you work with a producer, and nothing against working with a producer, we've been fortunate enough to work with some great guys, but it is another set of opinions. It's another guy in the room, and with just the four of us band guys, working on the album, it's just the four of us, with family. We know how the other guys work, how we all operate, the whole dynamics there. So it was just a very sort of streamlined, production. So it was great. We had a good time. We had a lot of fun making the album, and it was kind of a throwback. It was kind of a little gritty, a little heavy, a little dirty, and we did want it to be that. Oftentimes when you do work with a producer, their job so-called is it's not really their job, but the label's always kind of like, hey, why, take the edge off that, because we want this to be radio friendly, and or at least in our experience. And as the band, we're like, no, we want this to be heavy and raw, and when it's meant to be loud and angry, we want it to come across as that. And oftentimes they'll try and kind of take the teeth out of it a little bit, just so that in case this is a single, we want radio to not be reluctant to pick it up because it's too angry or whatever. So I get that side of it, but as the band doing it ourselves, we said, well, when it's time to be heavy and balls to the wall, we're going to go for it. And then when it's time to be mellow and kind of chilled, we'll do that too. And so it was kind of fun not to have anyone trying to sort of put the roadblocks in place when we were trying to really go kind of raw with it. So it was fun, man. It was a fun process. So we had a lot of fun.
It was a really great experience. Corey was saying the same thing. He said it was just a really nice experience making that album as well.
Yeah, and speaking of Corey, it was the first album we made with him, and he's a good producer in his own right. So and he knows Pro Tools back to front, and he can engineer. I think from here on out, we won't even have to involve any external, what would you call it?
Influences,
because Corey can engineer. We can do it all as a band in-house. So it's cool. It really gives us a lot of freedom. A lot of freedom to work. I mean, we can work on our own time. It's one less guy's schedule who we need to consider and all that. So I think it's really going to streamline things going forward, and just make it easier for us to produce and release music.
And you can see that because you followed on fairly quickly with the EP afterwards as well.
And it just makes all that stuff, whether it's mixing, to do a release, Corey, he can do all that stuff. So and I'm glad he can, because I'm completely illiterate when it comes to Pro Tools or any of the technical side of things. So it's nice having a knowledgeable guy in terms of the whole recording process. Just computers in general, I don't understand fully, but he's very smart with all that stuff. So He's a good guy to have. Yeah.
Definitely something I've had to teach myself as well with computers. It's crazy.
I know. Well, I mean, your line of work, it's a necessity, and it's so funny because I feel like the technology has progressed and evolved faster than I have been able to keep up. And it's just me being lazy. I'm sure part of it. I mean, I really have no excuse for not keeping up with the technology. I blame it on being old. But it's kind of a cop out. I really should keep up. But I mean, it's true. Things change so quick, and if I learn this today, tomorrow there's a new thing, and again, I think kids today have an edge because I used to laugh at my parents when they had trouble, connecting like a VCR machine to a TV.
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's easy. You do this and that. Now kids look at me and say, "Oh, are you trying to bounce a track down from this, and download it on, to
how I
YouTube or
take
whatever?"
stuff as a kid was tapes. Putting the tape on my parents' tapes, recording over it.
Exactly. They were confused by that. Now I'm confused by all this tech stuff. And you get a kid who's 10. He's like, "Oh, it's easy. All you do is this and this and that." I'm like, "How do you know that?" Well, I grew up with an iPhone in my pocket, so it's just a different world. But
they're always doing
that's life.
Yeah. Do you think having being able to work a little more independently, is it without that outside influence, has really helped you guys at the moment, especially with going through like everyone else has gone through around the world, like being able to work a little more together closely without other people getting involved?
Well, I mean, honestly, if this pandemic happened 20 years ago, before all these technologies that we have, it would have been so much worse.
Yeah.
And just on a personal level, if you couldn't FaceTime your mom or your mates, like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna pour a drink. You pour on that side, and we'll just sit and chat for, for as many negative effects as these technologies and social media can have on people and kids. Thank God for them, man, because I think trying to go through a lockdown like this without that would have been hell. But then on a professional level too, just being able to send ideas back and forth, music wise. "Hey, I have this idea," email it, put it on Dropbox, and, "Oh, I downloaded that song, it's great." Yeah. So it's so easy now to work because, I mean, we live in different parts of the States. I'm in Savannah, Georgia, which is all around the East Coast.
Yep.
Corey is in Atlanta, which isn't too far from me, but I mean, it's a solid 4.5 hour drive. Then Shaun's in Nashville, which is closer to sort of a little more on the east, but closer to the middle of the country. Johnny's in Oklahoma, which is even, further west. So we can't just easily get in the garage and jam together. Yeah. But with this technology, you can send music, you can get on a Zoom, and we can meet with management, talk through stuff. "Oh, this is the game plan. This is what we're going to do. Oh, this is the artwork." Send ideas back and forth. So it allowed us for everything not to completely grind to a halt. Yeah. And I think a lot of industries are like that. I mean, I think Zoom saved so many businesses and companies.
Being able to have conversations like this.
Same with us. Exactly. And same with us and in your industry as well. I mean, it was an absolute lifesaver. So thank God for that. It really saved the day.
It did. And albums like this, for me, music was the big part that has gotten me through this pandemic. Music and the arts. It's the one thing. Albums like yours as well, the Fizz, the Wasteland. I know fans would have absolutely loved sitting at home and lockdown cranking the heck out of these albums. You know what I mean? Yeah. It does give us more time to digest albums like this and crank the bloody hell out of them to annoy the shit out of the neighbors. But really good. The Vicennial, 2 Decades of Seether. What was it like getting this one together, going back through the whole collection and working out which tracks you want to add in? And tell us a little bit about this process.
A process like that, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
you know, a lot's happened in the last 20 years, and just going through those old songs and, you know, listening back through all the old stuff is it brings it all back to the forefront, and just sort of reliving those memories is it's great. You know, it's amazing. You know, it's hard to believe that so much has happened, and it's hard to believe how quick it went. It's like you know, it's almost like we flew to the States and I blinked and here we are 20 years later, after being signed by Wind Up and moving over here. Now here we sit 20 years under the belt. Granted, I was drunk. I was very drunk for a lot of that time. that didn't help. You know, time go any slower, I'm sorry to say. But no, it's been great, man. And you know, the fact that we're still doing it. You know, we still have a career. People still come to our shows and buy our albums, and we're going to keep going. You know,
so many lives influenced with your music as well. Like, it's touched so many lives, just, you know, sitting back, listening to tracks and going, wow. And at times, the low times and good times, and put on and see the track, and it has hit them hard, you know, and that's got to be really rewarding too.
No, it is. And you know, you say that, you know, we have a lot of people that come to us because, you know, we are involved in, you know, with the Save Foundation, and we have our festival, the Rise Above Fest, you know, which raises money and awareness for, you know, suicide and, you know, suicide prevention and all that. So we do get a lot of people who have struggled with mental health issues, and war veterans, and people that come to us and say, hey, you know, I was having a really hard time, but I listened to the song and it really helped me out. Or, hey, we came to the festival and you know, I met these people. You know, I realized I wasn't alone. Stuff like that it's you know, it's hard to describe, or it's hard to.
I understand it. I really do understand it.
Put a name on how something like that feels, because it's a little overwhelming in a sense, because it is something so powerful, but it's powerful in a good way. And you know, if people can take something positive from the music, it's great. You know, it's powerful. It's a very powerful emotion to experience.
It's definitely something I've battled with a lot of my life, having PTSD and major depression, and music has always been my go-to. You know, a lot of, you lock yourself in your room and you put on a great album that really hits you hard. And it's great when I see bands like yourself doing these things to raise awareness for mental health as well. So I did want to mention that. Kudos to you and your band for doing that as well. It's really good for other people to see that and go, it's okay to not be okay. And bands like yourself even struggle with things like this. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a problem, and it's, you know, it's not a nice thing to talk about. I mean,
no, it's not.
But when you
it's important.
I think everyone knows someone who's taken their own life, or even if it's a friend of a friend, or, you know, a family member, or it happens, and it happens a lot. And man, it happened a lot with this COVID shit. Like, people locked away, and, you know, we're a social species, and Zoom can only go so, as great as it is, Zoom can only go so far. You know, if you can't, it's gonna sound stupid, but if you can't go to a rock show and be around other people who are like-minded and just high-five the guy next to you because you dig the song, and drink too much beer and blow off some steam. And I know it sounds stupid because it's a rock show, it's a non-essential thing, but it's an important thing that kind of feeds the soul. And we're a social species, and that's why we have music, and that's why we have rituals and powwows and get-togethers, and we like to sit around fire. It's an instinctual thing. It's part of being human. We like to gather and listen to someone sing or bang sticks together, and I mean, it's as old as our species is. It's an important thing about who we are. So if we can't gather and get together, and it's a tribal thing too, you know, it's nice being at a rock show because, you know, you have something in common with those people. We like the same music. We probably agree on a bunch of stuff, not everything, but we can agree on the music we like. So you have a kinship, and it's a very important part of being human and feeling normal. And when you take that away from people, it's I think the effects are more damaging than people realize they are. And
Yeah.
I think there are going to be some after effects from all these lockdowns and things that were unforeseen and people couldn't necessarily anticipate. But all that said, I'm just happy it's kind of opening up now. I heard that Australia in 3 weeks is going to be opening back up for the most part, and I don't think it can happen soon enough. I think people need to, and again, get your vaccine, be safe. Don't go around licking doorknobs. Wear your mask if you have to. But just get out there. Get out there. Get around people. Give someone a hug. Like, just get out there. Be human, man. It's important.
It is, and I'm looking forward to having bands like Seether get over here to Australia and play some live performances. I'm really looking forward to that. And I've got to quickly mention, I know Carshow's back there, but I've got to briefly mention, what's your biggest highlight in the 20 years? I know you've probably got a few, but I've got to ask, because the 2 Decades of Seether is about to release on the 15th of October. What's your biggest highlight so far?
I think biggest highlight in terms of, I don't know, I'd probably have to say that there have been some great moments, but I think for me, the biggest one would probably be early on, just getting signed, getting an international record deal. Because it was such a, and is such a big thing. And again, especially coming out of South Africa, where it's not something that happens, to South African bands, and to be this band and getting this deal. And it's a common misconception to think, oh, we have this big record deal now, we've made it. It's like, no, now the work starts. But I'll never forget that excitement of just knowing that we were going to go overseas and record an album with a big time producer, and we had backing by this major label, and we were going to go on tour. And I was just excited to see these bands, like, oh, we're going to be doing a festival with, I don't know, Deftones. Sweet, I love Deftones. Korn's going to be there. Oh my God, I'm a huge fan. So just seeing these bands was a treat enough, but getting to play as well. But just that initial signing that album, just penning that ink, and just just
that's really cool.
The thought of the possibilities, what lay ahead, and just the excitement, and that was such a major moment in my life.
And for South African music as well, because it did put the South African music scene on the map a little bit, and probably gave some of these labels a little more, to go check out some bands from South Africa and support that scene a little more as well.
Yeah, I'd like to think it did. And, when we went home, in the years following, it seemed like, local music was a little cooler than, like, when I was growing up, local music wasn't that cool. But when we went back, there seemed like there were more bands, and people were going to go watch these bands, and it was kind of a cool thing to go watch local music. And I mean, I don't think it was just us. I mean, there were a lot of great bands, that we came up with playing, bands who I think deserved to get record deals, and have international careers as well. It's a hard thing to do, unfortunately, but certainly deserving bands out there. So I mean, the music was good. It's not like you were doing anyone a favor to go and watch a show. It's like, no, it was really good music and good stuff. And I used to keep up on it as much as I could. And when I went home, I'd make a point to go around to the local clubs and see what bands were playing and what new bands were out. It's just been hard because I haven't gotten to go home as much as I'd like in recent years, and to keep up. But whenever I'm home, I like to see what the kids are listening to, and buy a couple CDs or get on iTunes and see if they're available, and get some new music. So
that's it. Awesome, Dale. We'll sign out there. Any last words, shout outs, or thank yous you'd like to add in, my friend?
No, I guess just thanks to everyone who's still listening out there. Thanks to the fans in Oz. We miss you guys. We love playing in Australia. It's one of our favorite countries to tour. You know, we just love the people there, you know, and I think because it is culturally very similar to, you know, how we grew up in South Africa. So, you know, we definitely feel at home there. But yeah, it's been too long, man. Hopefully, if not next year, hopefully 2023, we can come play. Yeah, we'd love to see you guys. We miss you guys. And just thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hopefully see you soon. I'll be front row center, Dale. Thank you very much
Awesome.
for making some time to have a chat with me, man. Really
No problem,
enjoyed
bro.
this.
No,
Cheers, bro. Have a good one, eh?
Cheers.
Bye.
See you.